YouTube, it's Tone. I'm back with another one for you. Now, this one, I think is going to clarify a lot of questions that people have about the birth certificate and what the uses are and things like that. Because I know you hear a lot of different things online. There's not really ever a whole lot of law to back it up. So we're going to go over some of the documentation to prove exactly what it is that this document is and what the purpose is and things like that. So let's get into it. So this PDF I found online. This is from Freedom River. I don't know if the author's name is on this. When we get down to the bottom, we'll check it out. All right. What is a birth certificate? So here, your birth documentation should be straightforward and transparent. However, it soon becomes most complex and secretive paper trail imaginable. This alone suggests a long history of corruption. The process involves a maze of secret trusts and various parts of legislation focused on claiming your estate. And so they did this a number of ways, mainly essentially, how they really got around to it to being able to pull that off was to commercially traffic everyone and to make us look like we were no longer on the land, right? So they made everybody believe that their all caps name was them, and then they literally made everybody in the system believe that those documents are actually the people, right? Instead of the actual flesh living being and shit like that. So we've all got, brainwashed into looking at things as such. So that's how they were able to commercially traffic everybody off the land by just making everybody believe that that paper was them, essentially, right? So the modern birth certificate began as a settlement certificate issued in England in 1837 to officially record the poor paupers, granting basic rights to benefits in exchange for recognition of their status as owned property, lawful slaves, also known as indentured servants and bondsmen. A child's birthplace was its place of settlement, where its bond began. Thus, a settlement is equivalent to a voluntary slave plantation. Since 1933, all the New Zealanders have been required by statute to have a birth certificate and a tax identification number. Si- Since 1990, under the United Nations and the World Health Organization, by the Convention of the Rights of the Child, the birth certificate process has become an international system of settlement. And so settlement obviously has to do with accounting and things like that, right? So it's not just necessarily where you settled on the land, right? And this is another thing that they did was create a bunch of word games. So the word settlement you would think of as a piece of land, and they would look at it like settlement and closure of a certain account, right? So this is how they're able to pull this shit off. So when you are born, given life, a record of live birth is created, a prima facie evidence that just basically means legal of your life. The New Zealand equivalent is a notification of birth for registration. It is your affidavit of life with details that absolutely identify your living standing. It records your given name as a unique title, quote unquote title, i.e., John to your estate. The autograph of your mother establishes the origin of your estate. An estate must come before a trust, basically saying that the property has to come before the trust. Otherwise, what would the trust be based on? You know what I mean? So your mother and the state are now, by law, trustees in an expressed public trust of which you are the beneficiary. You are the holder in expectancy of your estate, which will descend to you as your right when you attain the age of majority, 20. This original trust should serve you well, but soon your parents are told that you must be registered. uh, they are under no lawful obligation, but the state is very insistent for reasons undisclosed. According to ecclesiastical law, that's the Bible, law and estate can only be held in trust by a man. But your mother was asked for her maiden name, constituting maternity, maternity in all caps. It is either legitimate or natural. The former is the condition of the mother who has given birth to the legitimate children, while the latter is the condition of her who has given birth to illegitimate children. Maternity is always certain, while the paternity is only presumed. And so they obviously, because the mother carries the child and the father can be anybody, that can't really be proven. That's what they're getting at right there. So therefore, all naturally born children are illegitimate bastards with with uncertain fatherhood, having no paternal holder of their estate. When registering an informant unknowingly makes an accusation as to your illegitimacy. Informant, a person who informs or prefers an accusation against another. Black's Law Dictionary, second edition. The Status of Children Act 1969, 2 says for the purpose of this act, marriage includes a void marriage. So you are legally a bastard without rights. And so that's how that goes. Hang on, let me write this time down. So a bastard has no inheritable blood in him, and therefore no estate can descend to him. So this is how they have us all written up as bastards, essentially. And then obviously minors as well, right? And they don't teach us any of this shit in school, and it's for obvious reasons, because it's really not that complicated. But to try to wrap your mind around it after we've been fucking brainwashed for so long is a little bit difficult. So, because they went out of their way to really make sure that they fucked us up. So, wrapping your mind around a lot of these concepts is probably going to be hard at first. And, from what I've been seeing, it's a lot harder for the older people to wrap their minds around this. The younger people really just, it's nothing to them because they haven't been lied to as much as we have yet. So, moreover, your given name title is recorded in the stillborn column. So they have you listed as, basically dead, basically dead, a stillborn. A stillborn child is one incapable of living. If they do not, in fact, survive for so long as to rebut this presumption of law, they cannot inherit. So there it is. Essentially, they have you all listed as dead. But some people will get this twisted and take it all to the next level as far as like putting in their documentation, the live living me and I'm breathing and the living soul and all this crazy fuckery. And it is because they do have us listed as dead essentially. So you do actually have to have like a claim to life, basically, right? Or even be able to wrap your mind around those concepts essentially. So the state can now legally claim your estate, making you a ward of the state and estates for life. Foreign situs trust, estate 9-2. The estates for life created by operation of law are the fourth jointer. The estate for life is somewhat similar to the usufruct of the civil law, Bouvier's Law Dictionary, and a joinder. Usufruct is the right to deprive income from property of another. So that is basically categorizing us all as this. Your record of live birth and the registrar's evidence are used to create a birth certificate bond, publicly certifying that a property title is registered as a security for the national debt. It is like a warehouse receipt for the baby. But one thing to keep in mind is that all these documents only make reference to the physical body and they only have authority over what they create, which is the documentation. So don't ever get it so twisted to think that they have authority over the physical vessel because they don't. They only have authority over the documentation making reference to the physical property. Okay, that's a crucial fucking piece to keep in mind here, because this is how they're like able to kidnap people's kids and shit like that, in like probate court and things like that. Is for people overlooking the fact that you're actually making reference to property and documentation that makes reference to property, and there's a big difference there. So the warehouse receipt for the baby, the delivered goods. So a warehouse receipt, which is considered a document of title, may be a negotiable instrument used for financing with inventory as security. And so this is part of what we do with the UCC1s, right? And we claim the security interest in this particular estate, right? And that's how you claim your shit back. At the same time, the bond converts your given name and family name into a trade name, all right? And so that's going to be used for commercial use. That's why it's in all caps. So only corporations have a last name. A legal person has been created by the state as a franchise child of the parent corporation. The bond is sold to the world. The Bank of International Settlements, created in 1931 by the Vatican, and they're the biggest bankers in the world, as settler of the trust, your weight in ounces on the record of live birth to calculate your market value relative to your gold. Your bond becomes a registered security, which the Treasury uses as surety for the Treasury securities such as Treasury bonds, notes, and bills. So you have been monetized. The people truly are the credit of the nation. However, in the corrupted system, the people's credit is effectively human capital or livestock. Although the state can seize the legal person, the baby, as a ward of the state, if the state's investment is threatened, Its greatest value is realized from the matured working adult. The perpetrators of this deception know that you could one day discover the truth and invoke your power of attorney from age 18. Property Act Law 2007, Section 22(1). Person between 18 and 20 years of age may do certain things. Accept appointment or act as attorney has the same effect as person if the person was 20 years old. In short, you can attain the age of majority at 20 by declaring your own power of attorney from the age of 18. However, if they can somehow kill you off, legally speaking, then they can claim your decedent estate, being your real property and lands and your personal property in life. This is why the legal person is legally a vessel in which the state has a security interest via the birth certificate bond. So when you reach full legal age, you become the master, Mr., Mrs., or the Miss of that particular vessel. The living you has gone to sea under the Admiralty maritime jurisdiction, which is the law of the sea. If you are missing for 7 years, you can be declared legally dead by the court. The same process is applied to ships and mariners lost at sea. But you will probably voluntarily forfeit your estate. You may start working and register your taxpayer ID, or you may enroll on a voting register. Either way, you are transferring your estate to the state's legal person by registering as an accommodation party. If you decide not to register as the legal person, you are a vessel lost at sea. After 7 years, you died without a will, intestate. So someone is appointed to manage your estate or trust. The public trust applies to the family court to manage your estate under the protection of the Personal Property Rights Act 1988, Section 11, Form Triple PR6, application for order to administer property. All right. And these are all the things that we put into our documentation as well, because you do have to actually claim all that shit to be able to administer your decedent in the state, and the wording, has to be proper as well. So keep that in mind. So here, under the first sovereign public trust agreement set up by your mother, you are the beneficiary, while your mother and the state are your trustees. The state employees are your public servants obligated to work for your benefit and defend your rights, having a fiduciary responsibility to do so. But under the new foreign situs trust, the government becomes the beneficiary and you become the trustee obligated to work for the trust because the trustee always pays. The state has turned the tables on you. The people are employed by the state as debtors for a private banking system which is upheld by the Private Bar Association Guild, the Law Society, while acting, quote unquote, as the trustee for the Foreign Situs Trust in your corporatized name, your all caps name. You will receive endless presentments, which are bills uh, that the employee of the state, the legal person, strawman, is obliged to pay. And you guys really got to just look at the definition of pay, right? And how there is no money. So, but the theft of your estate is based on the false presumptions that cannot be proven in fact. The fundamental flaw is that in order for a birth certificate to be issued, a man or woman must first have been born on the land. Plainly, you are not really dead, so you still have living rights on the land. You are the holder in due course of your estate title under the SDKV Act, which basically means the Beneficiary Act of 1666. Remember that only you have a birthday and you were born into the world from your mother, whereas the artificial legal person has a date of birth on it, which was registered by the registrar. They are usually created on different dates. Look at your registration printout. That's what I tell people too. So that's your date of death, essentially. So you have the date you were born, and then the date that they created the certification. That's your date of death. So that's to keep in mind when you're filling out forms, making reference to your decedent estate, and that's why you're making reference to a decedent estate because it's the all capital name, the state that was created by the state. And then here you have different information about the birth record and how it's all given out. And then we have all that too on the rest of the last page. So this information right here is fucking awesome. I think it clarifies a lot of fuckery that people have been putting out. So this thing is obviously a bond. It's obviously able to be monetized, and you can get as many of them as you want from the state that you were born in, Department of Vital Stats, and you go there and you tell them you need to get the long forms for legal matters, and they're going to print out a bunch of them. They're going to have barcodes on them, they're going to have serial numbers on them, and all that. Those are bonds. So then you're able to get as many as you need to be able to monetize and issue instruments and things like that and settle accounts and things of that nature. So it is the game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these clowns. That's what I got for you for now. Until we meet again.